Tonight's episode of APN's Jersey Shore podcast will not be streaming. Our scheduled host, Damon, the Hammer, Galdo, is a nominee for New Jersey Congress in District 1 and is currently speaking at an event in New Jersey. Thank you for your understanding, and you for being a loyal subscriber and viewer. APN's Jersey Shore podcast will be back on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
Founder of the Camden County, New Jersey Republican Women's Charter and the Vice President of the New Jersey State Federation of Republican Women and Camden County Committee Woman. Right now, I would like to introduce you to our chairwoman, Kimberly Stewart. Where is Kimberly? Kimberly's going to fill you in on a little bit about our county, also about how we're going to take questions tonight. Kimberly will be over here, and anybody who wants to ask a question can come up this side, okay? So here you all, Kimberly Stewart.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me in the back? Can't hear. Can we turn it up just a little? That's first point of order, is to make sure everybody can hear. Wait, good? Is that a little bit better? Okay, I'll try to speak up. Welcome, everyone. A little bit more? A little bit more. Damon, thank you. Thank you to Damon and Damon for doing our audio visual, and Annette for doing our lighting this evening. My name is Kimberly Stewart. I'm the chair of the Camden County Republican Committee. This is not my event. This is the Camden County Federation of Republican Women event, and I thank them for giving me an opportunity to speak. Quick plug to the Camden County Federation of Republican Women. As Claire said, Claire resurrected the defunct Camden County Federation of Republican Women, which was thriving maybe 20 years ago. Claire resurrected it. She breathed new life into this organization. She grew it. She built it. She stepped down to step up to vice president of our state Federation of Republican Women. She's now the vice chair of the state federation, and turned it over to Alicia Lewak, who is now our president. Alicia and her team, I won't mention everybody, but Alicia and her team are doing a fantastic job. There's a ton of energy. There's a ton of growth. We're bringing in new young Republican women. We're bringing in women, I say we, but what I really mean is Alicia and her team. Women who have not been involved in many years are coming back and joining the Federation of Republican Women. They're doing a lot of outreach. They're doing a lot of philanthropy. I invite you to join the Federation. It's $45 if you're a lady, and It's $35 if you're a man, and $45 if you're a woman. I don't know if I got that wrong. I know. There's a story behind that, but I won't get into it, and it drives me nuts every time I mention it, but it's great to have representation from both sides. The last thing I'll say about the Federation, or two things I'll say about the Federation. One is the job of the Federation is to recruit and support women candidates. We need women in office. We especially need Republican women in office. If you know anybody who wants to get involved, whether it's with a school board election, which is not political, or any other office, please get them involved in the Federation. They do education, they do outreach, and they provide support both financially and in the form of training to our candidates, which we desperately need. The second thing I want to mention is the weekend of the 22nd, the Saturday, the 22nd of August, the New Jersey Federation of Republican Women is doing a beautiful event at the Monmouth Racetrack. If you want more information, ask Claire or Alicia. I'm sure they'll be able to fill you in, but it's a fantastic event. Hats and horses. It's a day at the races. It's a lot of fun. So if you have some time on the 22nd, feel free to come out and get involved and meet some other Republican men and women. With regard to the Camden County GOP, the executive team and I took over about 2 years ago. We were just reelected. Thank you to everyone who took part in that election. Our initiatives to build and grow essentially the army of volunteers that supports candidates in Camden County. So just like the Federation, we're recruiting, we're funding, we're supporting candidates, great candidates. We're raising the bar and the stature of the Camden County Republican organization. When we took over 2 years ago, many people didn't know that there was a Republican organization in Camden County. And in all fairness, there wasn't much of one. We've more than quadrupled our size in Camden County. We're getting into every town and letting people know that we exist, that they're welcome. We have monthly meetings. If you're not on our mailing list, please get on our mailing list. We're happy to send you that information. Our next meeting is the 24th at Philomena's Restaurant on Blackwood Clementon Road. They do a beautiful job for us. They've been wonderful to us. We got kicked out of a lot of places because, as you may know, when you do business with Republicans, you don't do business necessarily for long before you get code violations and all this other nonsense. Philomena's has been wonderful to us. We have speakers almost every month. We have speakers. I know Rich DeWar came down and spoke with us. Justin's been with us quite a few times. So they're informative, and you're among about 100 people is what we get on a monthly basis. You're among about 100 other Republicans like you to brainstorm and network, and I invite you to come out, bring your friends and neighbors. You're always welcome. Just a couple quick events. We do have the Fall Gala coming up at the Trump National Golf Course. That's October the 8th. We're having, as of right now, we're having Rich Zioli, formerly of 1210, now of Fox News. He'll be emceeing the event. And then Paul Kenitra is an assemblyman. If you don't know Paul Kenitra, he's from Ocean County. He's awesome. He's quirky. He's dynamic. He's got a fresh perspective on Republican politics, and he's a winner. We don't know whether he's going to run for governor. He may end up in the federal administration, but this guy is going places, and he's got a lot of insight. It's terrific to hear him speak. I forget where I was when I first heard him. Oh, I think it was at the Trump for the Federation event. He's terrific. So if you want to come out and see somebody who's dynamic and doing things differently and winning, Paul Kenitra is absolutely your guy. I think Aura Dunn from North Jersey will also be with us. And of course, Damon, Galdo, and Justin Murphy will be with us as well. So that's our lineup for right now. I attended an event the other night, and I won't take too much more time. I attended an event the other night, and former Governor Chris Christie, among others, was there. Governor Christie will be joining us at our Lincoln Reagan Day dinner, also at the Trump in the springtime. So we don't have a date yet, but look for that. I don't have, what's the date? Of October. I neglected to tell you the Camden County Federation of Republican Women is doing a masquerade ball. It's an inaugural masquerade ball. And like everything Alicia does, it's going to be over the top and fabulous and a ton of fun. So that'll be on October the 29th. At Trump National Golf Club. The last couple events we've done at that location have been sold out. Lara Trump was with us not too long ago for a Federation event. These are great, fun, networking, and just fabulous fundraising events. So I invite you to come out. You will not be disappointed. So with that, I will sort of push my comments off to our next meeting. Okay, all right, so I'll announce, but I'm not, if you want more information about what Camden County is doing, I invite you to come out. This night is not really about Camden County. It's about our candidates. So I don't want to take too much time, but let me just introduce a couple dignitaries who we have in the room. This evening we have with us our Camden County Commissioner candidates, Rob Stone and Shane Burnett. We know that in Camden County, it's an uphill battle, and it's going to be a heck of a fight to win. We're outnumbered maybe 100,000 to 1 in terms of dollars. But we very much appreciate what these two gentlemen are doing. Not only are they giving of their time and putting their names out there and their families' names out there and subjecting themselves to all the abuse that comes with running as a Republican in Camden County. But from my perspective as the county chair, they're helping us raise the bar and the stature of Republicans in Camden County. These are, when I say these are fine gentlemen, these are our candidates. They really are the best that we have to offer here in Camden County. We're very grateful for them and all they do and the message that they share with Republicans as they go out throughout Camden County. So thank you to both Rob and Sheen for stepping up and running for us this year. We're always looking for candidates. I'll put that little plug out there. If you know anybody who's interested in running, we can absolutely find a place for them. Yeah, we could do a flag salute. So I'm going to introduce Damon and Justin, but before I do that, let us please take the time to do the flag salute. What do we do with it? Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Okay, so before I introduce Justin and Damon, I will thank Rich Tabor for coming out. As many of you know, Rich Tabor ran for United States Senate. I will say, from a personal standpoint, everything that Rich and Justin are doing and the friendship that they formed in the primary race in New Jersey is what Republicans should be doing across the board. Both Justin and Rich were stellar candidates. They have a ton to give to the state of New Jersey and to the United States Senate, for that matter. We would have been happy had either one of these gentlemen won, and we're very grateful that Rich is doing all the work that he's doing, that he did not walk away after the primary, and we're very proud of the relationship that Justin and Rich have, and I want to thank you for being here. Thank you very much, Rich. Okay, so we told Damon? Okay, all right. So we're going to ask Damon Galdo to say a few words. Damon Galdo, if I leave anything out, let me know. Damon has been involved for quite a few years here in Camden County and Gloucester County, where his hometown is. He's a father. He's a union manager. He works big construction projects. He's a very busy person. He has very traditional values, very common sense values. To talk to Damon is to understand that what he wants to do is just bring back this common sense way of thinking that we so desperately need in Congress. As I mentioned earlier, we're outnumbered 100,000 plus to 1 in terms of dollars. And Damon knows that, and he appreciates that. And notwithstanding, he still signed on to be our candidate for United States Congress in District 1, running against the infamous Donald Norcross. So Damon is out there in lieu of, having this big wealth of funding. He's out there and he's pounding the pavement and he's making contacts and he's doing his podcast and he's getting his face out there and he's not walking away. So we're grateful for everything that he's doing, all the hard work that he's putting in. And without further ado, I'll turn the mic over to Damon Galdo. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kim. I appreciate it. I just want to say, first, I'm very proud and honored to be here with Justin Murphy, running for U.S. Senate. When he asked me to come here, Justin Murphy, I'm going to give him a round of applause right now. I mean, Justin is a great guy, and I consider myself one as well. So that's why we get along pretty good. But the one thing is that Kim said that we are kind of outmatched. We are. It's very hard to raise money. I mean, the Norcross is a machine. They have millions of dollars just pour and they snap their fingers and they raise it. I mean, we all know we've been struggling to raise money. I mean, even the committees have been struggling. The candidates have been struggling. The Republican Party, especially in New Jersey, it's tough. But it's been going pretty good. It's been moving along slowly. It's getting bigger and bigger. Like I raised $2,500 last week, which is great. It's been like $700-800 a week prior to that. But I'm not going to have the money to go against Norcross, money-wise. But I will outwork him. That's the only thing. That's the only difference. You have to outwork him. I'm doing different things. Okay. That's why I say in all my videos, built by working hands, because I work with my hands all the time. So I will definitely outwork him. He prides himself on being the only union electrician ever elected to Congress, when he was in the union for about 5 minutes, and became a treasurer and a business agent and assembly and Senate, state Senate, and then Congress. So I just look at him as a fraud. So, but one thing I'm going to do, I challenged him to a debate, and I know he won't debate me. I'm like, keep challenging him over and over again. Social media, call his office, and then we're going to send him a letter. So what I did was, I ordered a big cardboard cutout of Donald Norcross. So anyone who wants to attend that debate, you can attend that debate. I'm going to have a moderator. I'll have a stand-in for him, because if he's not going to show, then at least we'll have a cardboard cutout, and then we'll see what he has to say during the debate. And then we're going to have it on America's Pulse Network. So I want to say thank you to a great producer. His name is Damon as well. Without further ado, I'm just going to say I'll turn it over to Justin, the man of the hour. And again, thank you, Justin, for inviting me to this. I really appreciate it.
Part of the ticket, Damon. Let's go.
So if I wasn't late, maybe I would have had one of my banners up there. But I'm proud to run with Justin Murphy. He's a great man.
I'm just going to move this over for just a minute. Just to let everybody know what the format's going to be, I'm going to ask Rich DeBoer to come up. He's going to do an intro for Justin, and then we're going to take questions. Justin's going to say a few words. We're going to take questions. We're going to ask everyone to line up on this far aisle here, and then I'll be at the end with a microphone, and we'll ask the question to Justin and Damon, and then they'll take questions as long as they can until they're about to fall over, and then we'll let everybody go home. It's a great turnout tonight. I want to thank you all. Before I forget, thank you all for coming out. It's really wonderful to see everybody here. Not going to get too much into Rich's background, but suffice it to say, Rich is doing a ton of work in our inner cities, recruiting Republicans at the grassroots level. In Camden County, we must be grassroots. That's the only way that we can get build and grow our party. And Rich is absolutely the epitome of grassroots Republicanism. I told him he's got to use his military background and his time as a paratrooper to parachute into the city of Camden, so that we can draw some attention to Republicans and get everybody out there registered to vote and involved. But I don't want to take away from Rich. Rich is a dynamic, compelling speaker, and I think you're going to enjoy hearing some words from him. Here he is, Rich DeBoer. Thank you. Yeah, I will. Well, he's got it. I got to get it. Well, Rich has to follow. Oh, sorry.
How you guys doing tonight? That was pretty solid, but I think we could do better. How we doing tonight? We got Damon here. We got Justin here. This is a good night. All right, we got two good candidates right here in this room that's ready to serve you. But I have to let the Republican Party know one thing. All right, we have to go into our inner cities. Republicans, this is where we're losing the fight every single time. That's where we're losing the fight. It's not that we don't have the better candidates. It's that we're not going into the inner city. A lot of times when I go into the inner city and I say, hey, I want you to vote for this guy, he's a Republican, they say, you guys got Republicans running? And I'm like, yeah, if you look at the ballot, well, they never come here. So we don't know. A lot of times, a lot of Republicans ask that question every single time. Rich, what's the issue? Why don't they understand the Democratic Party's doing nothing for them? They're not doing anything in the inner city. That's because we don't go deliver our message. How do you expect them to vote for us if they don't even know who we are? So the initiative that Murph and I are taking right now is we're going into the community and we're trying to bring a presence to every community. We're gonna, this month right now, on August 20th, we're gonna be in Newark doing our first Republican book bag drive. We're gonna be in Newark doing a book bag drive this month. Then on the 30th, we're going into Plainfield. We're doing another book bag drive and more outreach. So what we're gonna do is, eventually, I wanna say after probably a month or two, we're gonna create a nonprofit where we're gonna get donations from Republicans and we're going to bring the Republican message to every urban community in the state of New Jersey. Because I'm tired of us not being in these communities and them not hearing our message. Before I bring Murph on, I want to say something to you guys, because a lot of people believe that we can't change the Dems to Republicans. But I'll tell you right now, when I went into some of the communities, some communities that I'm not from or that I didn't grow up in or had no background in, I go into the community and I say to them, hey, I want you to vote for this Republican because he has the better message. They're like, oh no, we're gonna vote Democrat. But then I asked them this question. I say, did you know the bill that Mickey Sherrill passed, that she signed off on? And they say, which bill is that? And I say, it's a bill that agrees with 40-week abortion, 5-minute before birth abortion, and gender mutilation for 6-year-olds, cutting off their genitals. They say, what? I said, that's what you voted for. When you vote Democrat, and you vote Democrat down Assembly, down Congress, up for the Senate, and you vote, these are the things that you're voting for. $20 million taken away from Meals on Wheels to give to illegals. That's a problem. These are the things they're voting for. You got to make sure that when you go into these communities or you talk to Dems, they understand our message. This is not what we're for. We are against these things. We are fighting against these things, and we're trying to bring a better New Jersey and a better America. And these candidates right here are the ones that's going to do it. So that's why I believe in them, that's why I'm helping them, and that's why I'm here. So everybody, I need you to tell your friends, tell your family, tell everybody that these guys are running and you need them to go out and vote for them. We need every single Republican, every single independent, even if you got a friend that's a Democrat, we need you to make sure you tell them these are the guys that we need down in D.C. No one else. Thank you, guys.
And just so you know, Rich isn't going to go home to bed right now. He's going to drive up to Elizabeth to take our message to the folks in Elizabeth, and that's what he's doing for us tonight. No alcohol in here.
Thank you, everyone. Rich DeWard, before we let him go, thank you to Rich for being here.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you, everyone, for showing up tonight, a work night, and you have to get up for work tomorrow in this hot weather. But thank you. I'll just be very brief. We'll get right into your questions. I'm happy to be with Damon here. I can't tell you how energized our campaign is to have Rich DeBoer head our urban initiative, where we are taking a conservative message into urban communities, okay, across the state. And we just had a great fundraiser up in Jersey City. We had over 100 people came out. The NJGOP helped us put that together, and it was a fabulous night. And things are coming together. We have an uphill battle here, let's be real, okay? But we can win this race, and we're going to win this race. So I think I know most of you. I am getting to the point now where we're seeing new faces with every event, and that's good. That tells me the campaign is doing what it should be doing, and that is growing. It is growing, and so that's certainly good news. So let's get right started with your questions here. You don't have to take up too much of your time. Off to the side, we'll have a line, and then Damon and I will address everything. And I want to just, again, thank all of you for your support and your devotion to the party and the country. And just remember, we'll be patient. Good things will happen to us.
Justin, Jim Callahan. I'm from Winslow. I have two questions, actually.
Okay.
The first one is, I did a tax return in April, and I must have filled out like 15 pages for one individual, okay? And just going through all the tax information, it's just, it's too much information. What plans do you have to try and trim that down a little bit?
Well, I thank you for that question. It's on the issue of taxes. And if you look at my Senate pledge, consistently bullet point number one on my pledge is to abolish the IRS, get the 70,000-page Internal Revenue Code off of the backs of our taxpayers, and have a simple, fair, flat tax with the retention of mortgage and charitable deductions. Okay, it addresses the issue of affordability. It ensures that the small businessman and woman across the country knows that the Republican Party is their best friend, and that's who we will be. I've been self-employed and all my life, self-employed in small business, so I know what a burden that is. The IRS should not need 70,000 pages of Internal Revenue Code because we know it can be abused. We know what happened to the Tea Parties under the Obama administration. The Internal Revenue Code was used to harass conservative groups with their application process for 501c3. Folks, that's an egregious abuse of power. I don't get over things like that. Those on the left don't understand that this government was designed to serve us, not use the power of government to punish their political opponents. And our tax code allows them to do that. So if I have my way, my plan, you abolish the Internal Revenue Code, abolish the IRS. We have a flat tax of around 10%, maybe 12. We retain mortgage interest deductions because home ownership is critically important to our country and our economic freedoms. We keep our charitable deductions, and that's it. That's it. It should take you about 10 minutes to do your taxes every year. And you get a huge standard deduction for a family of 4 that would probably be between $50,000 and $60,000. Okay, much
Sounds
like.
great.
Thank you.
My second question was,
You want to take the second one?
you mentioned interest rates, and I know if you're a young person today, the effort you have to go through to raise money to buy a new home, it puts a lot of people out in the market, and they wind up renting instead of purchasing. What can we do to help young people now to buy a house?
Yeah, that is a great question, and that is the focus, because I want the young people to know that the Republican Party is more worried about the next generation of Americans than the next election. Okay, and home ownership being so critically important to the American dream and the economic freedoms that we all enjoy and want to work for as Americans, what I would suggest is that we have a home ownership policy, okay, as opposed to housing policy by those on the left. And the difference is this: home ownership policy, the best policy we have for home ownership is being gainfully employed with low interest rates. That's how you can buy a house. That's the best way to buy a house. Okay, our young people today, I believe the statistic, sadly, is people are not buying their first homes today until they're 40. I mean, that's not signaling to our young people that capitalism is a good system. I said, when they hear housing free, healthcare free, education free from the Democrat socialists, they start to buy into it. So we certainly need that to change. We have supply and demand issues with home. Okay, but one of the reasons that is because we had an influx of millions of illegal aliens, okay? And right now we have thank you, Donald Trump, we have a secure border, okay? We have 0 illegal crossings of that border, and 3 million illegal immigrants have either been deported or are being deported or self-deported. All right, that takes a lot of pressure off the housing market because the supply and demand is a little bit out of whack. We have a lot of regulations and restrictions. We can do a number of things, but for our young people, it's gainful employment with low interest rates. Okay, that's the best home ownership policy that we have. Okay, reforming our tax code would do wonders for that. All right, we do need to probably do something with the down payment because it's taking so long to save 20% of a house, to have money down, some years of bills in the bank before and that's what's pushing people into their 40s before they buy their first home. But home ownership is so important, Jim. I made that part of my pledge. I had 10 bullet points in my pledge, and now I have 11. It's home ownership, because if we don't own our own homes, what are we doing? We're renting, and who owns all the homes then? State Street, BlackRock, and Vanguard? No thank you to that. We want to own our own homes. That's the real predicate for economic freedom in America. And the American dream, I think the American dream is probably defined by a lot of different people, a lot of different ways, because we all want different things in life. But I think everyone's definition of the American dream is home ownership. So it's got to be that critically important for all of us. Okay, how do you keep interest rates low? Stop spending so much money. Okay, if interest rates, if inflation starts to spike higher, okay, the first thing the Federal Reserve does is jump into the mix, and they raise interest rates to combat the high rates of inflation. So if you're in the middle class, you get your candle burned at both ends. You get high interest rates, and you get a high inflation rate. We know interest rates under Joe Biden were 8%. They're now down to 6%. That 2% difference means over a 30-year mortgage, hundreds of thousands of dollars in your pocket. hundreds of thousands of dollars saved over the life of a mortgage. So lower interest rates is really the key. And we need a strong and growing economy, and the energy sector is really the driver of that. So let's give this to Damon for these two questions. Thank you, Jim.
Damon and Justin, I just want to follow up on the first question that Jim raised. He was talking about the IRS and the tax code. We hear a lot from the Democrat socialists that you just mentioned with regard to, the top 1% paying their fair share. Can you talk a little bit about how the flat tax helps in terms of fairness to all Americans, whether they be the top 1%, the very poorest of them, or the middle class, who's the very poorest of us, and the middle class, who seems to be always ignored and left out?
Yes, I'll definitely talk about. So I'll talk about that with the flat tax. I think Justin is onto something here with a flat tax, because then everyone is taxed equally. Because he mentioned the DSA, the Democratic Socialist, and they believe that you should tax the rich, put their hand in your pocket and take your money. And that doesn't work. They don't believe in capitalism. Capitalism actually built this country, and we're based on meritocracy. And that's the difference in it. So that flat tax is a great idea. That way everyone is taxed equally. No one's getting taken away. And if you want to build something, if you want to work harder, then work harder and do something better. If you go to socialism, and then you're not going to innovate. No one's going to, everyone's looked at as the same. No one's going to create anything. They're not going to create jobs. Too much government, and then puts everything in the government's hands. Too much government is bad, because we talk about interest rates too. I know the government, when they get involved in subsidies with housing and everything else like that, and they build low-income housing and they force lower interest rates, you really can't do that. When the government does that, then that turns into a housing market crisis, because you give out subsidies to people that can't really afford certain types of housing. Now, I bought my first house when I was 19 years old, and I was just lucky. It wasn't. I lived in Philly, so it was cheap. So, but no, the homeownership is very important. And if you look at a lot of the DSA people that he was just talking about, there are a lot of young kids that are told to go to college. That they have to go to college, and then you're going to get a great job when you get out. And then you go to college for something that you're never going to get a good job on, like never. I always joke around, and my buddy always says underwater basket weaving is a class, and they'll send you there for that, and they'll charge you so much money. And then when they get out, they're in so much debt. And the problem is, when again, government getting involved is bad. And it may sound like an oxymoron because we're running for office, but that's one of the reasons why I'm running for office, to lessen the government rule and stopping them from putting their hands in your pocket. Because if you go back to the 1960s with Lyndon Baines Johnson, when he started doing the government loans for college tuition. Now, before, you would take a loan out and the bank would assess the risk. If this kid is going to go to college, what's he going for? Is he going to be able to pay it back? And then LBJ started the government loans, and then Clinton pushed it further. Obama sealed the deal. So then after that, you can go to college for the rest of your life. And you really can right now. I'm not kidding. If you want to go to college, you can just keep taking loans out over and over and over again for the rest of your life till you die and never pay it back. So with these kids that get out of college, they're in so much debt and they can't get a job, they never got assessed a risk. Like I said, anyone in this room can apply right now to go to college. It doesn't matter how much money you have, doesn't matter what class you're taking, doesn't matter any of that. And they will give you a loan, and it's based off of your tax dollars. So
Thank you, Damon.
And I just want to say one thing too. That's why I really want to put vocational schools back in, the trades. I think it's very important, because I make more money than most of the people I went to high school with and went to college, and not all, but most. And I work with my hands. I mean, it's a really good thing to do. You get home from work, you feel like you accomplished something. When you build a new building, you feel like you accomplished something, and you make a good wage. So I'll just go with that.
Thank
Turn
you.
it over to Justin.
Kim, just on the flat tax, I had this question the other week. Someone asked me, well, how does it work and how's it work? And I said, well, here's how it works. The criticism of it that, well, it's not fair, the rich people are not paying their fair share. We know that's ridiculous. Any statistic will tell you if you break our income earners down by percentile, okay, the top income earners are picking up the vast majority of the federal income tax tab. That's just how it is. We have almost 49% of Americans not paying any federal income tax. Now, we want that to some degree because we want to help out those in the lower rungs of the economic ladder. But I explained to this woman, I said, here's a flat tax. You earn $100 a year. Okay, it's 10%. What did you pay in tax? And she had a little trouble with that. So I said, I think I see the problem. And I didn't say that. I said, you earn $100 a year. You pay the Justin Murphy 10% income tax. You pay $10 in tax. I said, your neighbor works a job and makes $1,000 a year, earns 10 times the amount of money that you do. And they pay the same flat 10% rate. How much tax did they pay? I said $100. They paid 10 times the tax that you made. So liberals should love this idea because it gets rid of corporate loopholes and it's progressive in the way that it's applied. But it's simple and fair and flat, and it just will spark a lot of economic growth. And I always point out with the flat tax, during the Cold War, the Soviet Union had about 15 republics, quote unquote, with the Iron Curtain, which are all independent countries today: Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Belarus, Moldova, and they all have flat taxes. The former republics, well, they weren't really republics, the former Soviet socialist republics, former communist Soviet Union, they all have flat taxes now. So if they can figure it out, we're the foremost economy in the world, we should be able to figure it out too.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, ma'am.
Okay. My name's Loretta. I'm from Medford, New Jersey, small business owner.
God bless you.
Thank you very much. And I wanted to ask you a question. When you become a senator, okay, and it could be for both of you, what committee, by the way, my degree is in underwater basket weaving. No, it's actually in political science, and so I love politics. But I wanted to ask you, what committee would you pick to be on? Apparently, according to Google or AI, there's 24 committees in the Senate, and I was wondering what committees you would be interested in joining or being appointed to. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for being a small businesswoman. I'm from Medford also, and I know it's a tough life. And the Republican Party can be the best friend our small businessmen and small businesswomen have. What committees would I like to be on? Senate Armed Services Committee, and probably being a lawyer and having authored a book on judicial activism, the judiciary, possibly banking. Yeah, I think those two would be fine. And anything to do with energy, because I love energy. Okay. I have an LLM in energy. I've worked in the energy industry before from a public policy and regulatory perspective. And the energy industry is such a cause of enthusiasm for me because it's cutting-edge technology, public policy, gainful employment, jobs, national security, environments, everything. I mean, critical infrastructure. Energy is everything. So and we have trillions of dollars of wealth here in this country in our energy sector that's just waiting to be tapped. And that money will go to a productive blue-collar middle class. Okay, that's because that's how it works. Okay, so it's wealth for our middle class, it's national security, it's environmental. There's a whole bunch of things with that, but energy is the key. So energy, banking would be probably interesting, but I don't know if I'd be a good fit there. I don't like banks. I just never got along with them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Loretta.
Well, judiciary, maybe if Justin teaches me, maybe. But
read my book.
Yeah. So no, I very much so the oversight committee, because we see all this fraud that's going on right now, and I think federal oversight needs to be. I know the states that are on their own for decisions they make, and there's not much someone elected federal official can do in the state, but they can do oversight. I mean, I know we're having a battle with data center in Monroe Township right now. Now, do we need data centers? Yeah, sure, we do. They are the future, but they can't put them in residential areas, farmland. You know, you don't know how much well water they're going to draw and dry up their wells, how much energy they're going to draw, and any cost for the people that live there. So that's a big issue. And I'm okay with the data centers, but there needs to be oversight with that. I mean, you need to have oversight. You look at what's happening in Minnesota. You look what's happening in L.A. These states they're robbing federal dollars from all these fraudsters. So that's a very important thing for me. I would like to be on an oversight committee.
Excellent.
My name is Juliana. I'm from Voorhees Township. I read your material, and you talk about parental rights or the civil rights issues of our time. I absolutely agree on numerous fronts, and I wanted to ask you what would be your position to strengthen families and strengthen parental rights.
Right. Parental rights, and I think by extension, medical freedom are the civil rights issues of our time. Okay, number one, we have to stop beating the living daylights out of the traditional family unit. Okay, we have to just stop doing that. There is no better way to raise a child. And I was raised by a single mom. Okay, I was raised by a single mother, and it was probably better for me because of the situation. But when you look out through society culturally, we want strong family units. Okay, there's no better way to raise children. There's no better way to keep them out of trouble. We know that children that have a two-parent household are much more likely to be successful academically and in the labor force, and much less likely to wind up in a jail cell. We know that. We know that for a fact. What we do with parental rights, we acknowledge them as a civil rights issue of our time. We acknowledge there is no co-parenting arrangement between government and parents, ever. Okay. We have to win elections and win school board seats. We have to win elections and win the State House back next year in Trenton, especially with State Assembly and State Senate. We need to ensure and probably extend and expand, because there already is some codification for parental rights. Parents need legal tools to fight back. When they're vilified at school board hearings, when their children are being mutilated behind their back, and then they're denigrated or vilified somehow for objecting to it, which of course is just, I can't even get my mind around the madness there. But codification so that parents have the legal tools to fight back, and possibly fund foundations to help fund some of these legal fights. There's been quite a few legal tussles here in New Jersey. Up in New Jersey, there was a pretty interesting case, and the parent won. I won't mention her name. She may want to remain silent. But she was up, I think, up in the Bergen County area, and the court battles. You get involved in a legal tussle. It's stressful, it's expensive, and it's time-consuming. So we will want maybe legal foundations established to help parents. The way we have legal foundations for environmental causes, we can have legal foundations for parental rights. And I think there are some out there that actually pick some up now. But winning elections is probably the most important thing. It really is. Winning elections is the most important thing. Who wins elections matters. Who passes our laws matter. Who's sitting on our school boards matter. And that's one of the many multitude of things that we can do. But we want a thriving, growing economy. People need economic opportunity. Their lives are so much better, more productive, and stable when our economy is growing. Okay, one reason now young people are waiting to get married and waiting to have children is based on an economic decision. Now, I'm 60. I've never been married. I'm really waiting on an economic decision, so I don't. So, but I got a thumbs up back there from, who's that, Cindy? Hi, Cindy. No, not to be funny, but I mean, a lot of young people who were very set back, family planning matters are very set back during COVID. Okay, because when the finances aren't in place, people are putting off getting married, putting off buying a home, putting off having children. So a growing economy is imperative to that, so that there's economic stability and opportunity and economic security for the middle class, imperative to grow our families. And we want to promote growth. I mean, I'm a Catholic, so I'm Catholic. Yeah, got to be Catholic, right? When I was a young boy, I went to Catholic school, and I loved it. I hated when my parents took me out of it, but I was living in Delaware County at the time. I was going to Blessed Virgin Mary in Darby, and I lived in Collingdale, PA, and I lived in a row home, because this was just outside of Island Avenue by South Philadelphia, so it was a row home. So has anyone ever lived in a row home? Okay, they're about tight. You're just small and tight, and this is a true story. There was the family that I went to school with in Blessed Virgin Mary, the Gibbons family. The Gibbons family lived also down around a block from me, a little bit ways, but they also lived in a row home, and a Catholic. They had 17 children. True story. And we all tried to figure out, what do you guys take shifts sleeping? How do you do this? But how many did you have? Bunk beds. Yeah, bunk beds and all. But the family should be paramount. And again, it matters who wins elections. Codification, legal defense funds can help. Winning school board seats, and a growing, expanding economy. And then culturally, we want to promote. Get married. Now I feel kind of stupid because I'm 60. I've never been married, so I don't want to impose it on anybody. But we want our young people to have the opportunities to get their lives, because I do know a lot of them put it off because of their economic circumstances. So.
Well, that family you were just talking about, they must have stopped reading the Bible when it had be fruitful and multiply, and just stopped right there. 17 kids. I have 2 kids, so I couldn't imagine 17. But that's one of the main reasons why I got involved in politics. I never grew up thinking, hey, I want to be a politician. I like what I do for a living. I love building commercial buildings. And then I had my kids. And then I seen what was going on. And when my daughter came home and told me that there's a boy in her class thinks that he's a girl and he's allowed to use her bathroom, that's when I was like, oh, wait a minute. No, that's not happening. So, and then one thing I got another story too with Donald Norcross, my opponent. Now, Donald Norcross, he voted against H.R. 28, which is against not having men in women's sports. So he was for it, having biological men in women's sports. So he voted against that. So the first time I went to one of his town halls, it was a couple years ago, and he screens everything. So you have to put in your question, you have to put in your email address, your name, everything. So I put my wife and my name and question and all that stuff in there. And then when we got to the town hall, someone leaned over to him and they pointed right at me. And I'm like, okay, now he's not going to call on me. And of course, and when it turned over questioning, he ignored me. They walked right by me with the microphone and went to someone behind me when we had our hands up. So the next time I went, thought about it a little bit better, because my daughter wanted to ask a question. And so I used her name, my wife's maiden name, created an email address, used my mother-in-law's address, and then we all went, my wife, my son, my daughter. So I had them go in 5 minutes ahead of me. And I said, I'm going to sit 5 rows behind. I don't want to know that you're with me because he won't call on you. So actually when he was done, my daughter, who was 12 years old, was the first person that he called upon. And she asked him the question, do you believe boys can become girls and girls can become boys? And he said, and then she said, the reason why I'm asking this is because there's a boy that plays lacrosse on the opposite team of me. And she said, I know girls are strong, but boys are stronger. And they always win because of that boy who thinks he's a girl. And he actually answered it like a Republican. I was surprised. He said, it's a mental health issue between the doctor, the parent, and the child. So I'm looking at him, I'm like, wow, well, you voted against H.R. 28. So if it's a mental health issue, why would you put, my daughter in harm's way, again, playing against a boy that's physically stronger than her, and actually knocked her over and she got hurt. So that's where my opponent is. That's where Donald Norcross is. That's where Democrats are. They don't really care. I'm not saying every Republican is great, but we actually cared. You all care. That's why you're here right now. But I just wanted to share that story with you. So,
Thank you for having me, Justin. My name is Chase from Medford. One thing I wanted to touch on was the deficit, federal spending. Everyone talked about it, both sides of the aisle. If I was in Congress, one thing I would propose would be a spending freeze, meaning we're not going to spend more next year than we did the year prior, or maybe even less. That way you bring down inflation, the interest rate, create more jobs for people of all ages. I want to hear your opinion on that.
Well, I'll just say this, and I'll turn it over to Justin. How about we stop spending $7.3 billion a year in the state of New Jersey for illegal aliens? Mikey Sherrill made us a sanctuary state and codified that in the law. We're a sanctuary state, and she's passed the biggest budget New Jersey ever had, and $7.3 billion of it goes towards illegal aliens, and they won't work with ICE and all that. So that's something everyone needs to change.
Thank you, Chaz, for the question. Annual deficit, yeah, I mean, they're big, right? I think we're over $1 trillion of deficit now. First thing we have to do is bring into equilibrium federal revenues and federal expenses. I'm all for that idea, freeze. That way they can't say you're cutting anything. No, just freeze. What you spend last year, that's what you get next year. That should be good enough for everybody. Just freezing federal spending and growing our economy I would bring equilibrium, and we would stop running annual deficits. And when you stop running annual deficits, you'll stop adding to the national debt. And you'll have lower pressure on interest rates. Interest rates are low. Inflation falls. Inflation declines. Interest rates follow. So again, that just helps everyone. But we have right now, I remind people, we all get up, go to work every day. We self-employed. You get crucified with taxes. And we send $5 trillion a year to the federal government in revenue. Every year. Now stop and think about how much $5 trillion is every year. And they spend it. And we're finding out now a lot of it is theft, criminal, siphoned off, stolen, wasted, fraud, abuse. You should be a little angry at that. You work hard to make this country great, and then we have a political class that's so greedy and drunk for political power, they just disregard the waste, fraud, abuse, and what we now know is criminality. But $5 trillion a year go to Washington in tax revenue. They spend it, and then they borrow another trillion, if not more, to cover their expenses, and that's our annual deficit. We can get rid of that deficit fairly easily. Energy, again, is the key, and a new system of taxation. When we grow our economy and sustain it between 3 and 5, 4 to 6%, which I know we can do without inflation, okay, we'll have more money than we know what to do with as far as revenue, legitimately, with lower tax rates, okay, and we won't need deficit spending. We also have to attack the waste, fraud, and abuse problem because there are hundreds of billions of dollars that need to be recovered and stop bleeding out of our health care and social safety net programs. Balanced budget amendment to the Constitution should be submitted to the states also. Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea.
And Justin said he won't take a salary if he wins, so he'll add to. So,
And you too, right?
I didn't say that.
I notice how taller you are tonight, Kim. I just wanted to say so.
I wore my tallest shoes.
All right.
Blake.
How are we doing, gentlemen? My name is Blake Shibashevsky. I have a bachelor's in computer science. My question is about data centers. However, it's not a question about the electricity use or the water use. It's about something else. Our president has gone on Truth Social multiple times and have said that we needed these data centers because it's a national security issue. It's a national security issue. He's also said that they'll bring a bunch of jobs into the local areas, whatever the case may be. But what people don't realize is that a lot of these software jobs that are being brought with these data centers, cybersecurity analysis, software engineer, it's all going to H-1Bs over in India. We have a foreign country managing supposedly a national security issue. So my question is this to you, gentlemen. Would you be willing to draft legislation that would severely limit H-1Bs in national security, or potentially even limiting H-1Bs or removing the H-1B program in general? Because guess what? In the last couple of years, over hundreds of thousands of cybersecurity analysts, computer programmers have gotten fired from big tech companies. We got the workforce. We don't need these people. What say you?
I absolutely would. I brought that data centers earlier. I definitely would. Now, do people from the other countries, the H-1Bs that are coming over here, do they know more than people are getting taught? Like I know, not to bring it up as a joke again, but underwater basket weaving. So, but we need to teach that in colleges. If we got to bring a few over to teach that to the college students, that's it, just minimum, not give them the jobs. And data centers aren't really going to create a ton of jobs because they're going to be self-sustaining. The only jobs, the majority of the jobs they're going to create are construction jobs because you're going to have to build them. After that, they're managed by a handful of people. And then you have people sitting in an office somewhere that just upload different tech and write code and things like that. And that's what you're talking about. I'm bringing the people over for that. Well, we need more people that know that, and that's the thing. I mean, if you look at all the classes in college, there's not a ton of people taking that, to know how to write code.
There's a lot of people. It's that big tech companies don't want to pay the wages for Americans. They want to cheap out and hire people in H-1B programs. That's why.
Okay, well, maybe that's why. Last I checked, there wasn't a ton of people taking those classes because they didn't think they were going to get a job, and that's probably why. So, but yeah, as long as they have, I won't mind bringing a couple over to be teachers and teach our students how to do code and run this. Yes, then create more American jobs, because data centers, like I said, they are needed because we do have to beat out China. We can't let them beat us. It's like the space race. You know, this is the tech race now for this. But yeah, I think it needs to be more American jobs, and that's hands down, that's simple.
Thank you, Blake. For everybody here, will you spell your last name for us?
I was going to do it. I was going to do it.
DRZYBYSTEWSKI.
Man, that's something.
Hey, Justin, I told him before when he was on the podcast.
I had to ask you, sorry.
Yeah, our big producer here had to spell his last name. I said, Blake, I'm sorry.
Trouble.
I said, but if someone had a gun to my mother's head and said, spell his last name, I would say, I'm sorry, Mom.
Well, we got it. We know how to pronounce it anyway. All right, H-1B should certainly be tailored where American workers are put first. Very simple. I mean, I can't imagine any other way. And I remember I went to see John McCain when he was running for president back in 2008, before George Bush had won. He came to Medford, New Jersey, came to Lenape High School, and that question was asked to him, not H-1B specifically, but foreign workers. And I will never forget his response. It always stuck with me. And the question was posed about outsourcing and, like, you know, kind of what you said about H-1B and foreign workers coming in, American workers being displaced. And he said, the fact that the United States of America would have to look outside of its borders for qualified workers is a ringing indictment of our public education system. So a big component of that is, are we teaching STEM? Or are we teaching, you know, underwater basking? What are our kids learning? What is being, we're DEI, CRT, personal and private issues as public school curriculum. We're not teaching them STEM. What is China teaching their next generation of kids? Quantum physics. It's not going to end well for us. Okay. H-1B should absolutely be tailored where the American worker comes first. The American worker. We also want to make sure that we have in place in our country the right system of taxation, which to me is a flat tax, and the right regulatory climate, because those two things will determine if your economy is attracting business capital and wealth creation, so that businesses are here on our soil. Okay, we don't want a company to say, I can't find any workers here and you won't let any in, so I got to take my business over to India. That's the last thing we want. We don't want to export any jobs or businesses here, but American workers should always come first, especially with H-1B.
Thank you, Joe.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Joseph Maffei, and this question follows up on the working question, but on the smaller end. Because when I was in college 3 years ago, there was an issue that was a buzz in every single hall. It was the fact that no matter how many jobs there were available, or no matter how many times you went to at a interview and everything else, you would go to check back to see if you got the job would be gone. Not filled, gone. Completely gone. There is a unspoken problem where quite literally companies are proposing jobs, are taking in resumes, putting in interviews, but then immediately disappearing it to show that they are growing without any substantial growth. So my question to you, gentlemen, is this. What would you propose or do to make sure that there is an actual growing workforce that does have the chance to build funds, get the resources they need to make the American dream they want? That is what I ask of you.
I would say, just to touch on my other answers, number one, grow your economy. Grow your economy so businesses need workers and that they're actually competing for workers. That drives up wages. Okay, for our middle class and for our working poor. It increases social mobility for our working poor, economic security for our middle class. I would do that. You know what? When you just asked me that question, you know what I think a lot of that is? a big corporation is probably moving somebody laterally into a position that's the foregone conclusion. But HR is telling them, you better go through this process of pulling people for an interview just to make sure. And I think a lot of that is a dog and pony show, because I've been through it a lot of times myself in working adult life. It's just that, like I won't mention the company's name, but they have a position, they're moving people up. It's a horizontal move, it's a lateral move, it's an internal move, and there's not really a chance for someone extraneous to the company to be brought in at certain levels. And I think that probably is a lot of the problem. But I think that it's always, when businesses are competing for employees, wages rise, benefits rise, quality of life increases because you get flexible schedules and you get all these wonderful things. But it's growing the economy. Growing our economy is so important to almost every aspect of our life. Job seekers, middle class. It's just you have to grow the economy.